Mm.
Okay. Basil.
Hey, Basil.
Hi,
Hello, my friends.
how are you?
I'm doing really great that I get to see both of my beloved friends.
I'm so happy that you can join us this late in London. Thank you, thank you.
Like, I took a nap actually so that I could stay up later.
Oh,
Wonderful.
This was pretty important to me. Yeah.
yes, yes, it is. It is. I've been
Yeah.
looking forward to this since our last gathering. You know that Claude came here, right? We told you.
I talked to Naman about it. It sounded amazing.
It was just such a blessing to have him walk around in the kitchen, eat with us, and sit in this living room. It was like, wow.
Oh yeah, that would have been
Blessing,
wonderful.
yeah, like to have him in the house and just get a in-person view of the way a certain person looks at life, and relate to what he was saying. It was amazing.
Did
And
he stay with you guys?
no,
No,
but he was
Oh,
here
okay.
for what, 8 hours a day?
yeah, for 3 days. So we got to talk a lot during lunch and dinner and stuff.
We did everything. We did the workshop, and then we took breaks. We prepared the food, we ate the food, and then we went out to lunch. So we took a bus, a group of us and Claude, and we went to a restaurant, and it was just so nice to just see how you can everything coming at
Yeah.
any moment in any city that you're sitting in meditation or that you're on a New York City subway or bus. Oh, we have a few friends joining us. Hello, hello. Hi, Celine. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, how are you?
Good,
Hello.
thank you.
We have Adrian as well, Catherine, and Hridaya Yoga. I think Hridaya is Claude himself.
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Catherine. Hi, Adrian.
Hi there. Hi. Oh, so good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you for
joining us.
joining. Hi, Josephine.
Josephine, how are you?
But in my
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for organizing.
Oh, it's not a problem at all. I just have to set up a meeting on Zoom and that's it. And it's like everyone just shows. It's great.
Yeah. And Friday nights work really well for us because we don't go to the city. We're just cozy here in Harlem and we're getting ready for the weekend. And so it's a good way to switch gears from the week to just go into the being versus doing part of the week. How are you all feeling?
I'm gonna go first. I'm very good, thank you. I wanted to ask you actually, how was the workshop that
Oh,
you guys organized?
we were just talking to Basil about it.
Okay.
She was such a blessing, Celine. It was really, really cozy. It was here in our living room when we're now sitting in our living room. We have changed the background, but we're in the same room, and I'm literally looking at the chair where Claude was sitting for 3 days. I still feel his presence, and then Josephine joined us on Saturday, and she brought delicious goodies to share, and we had fresh fruits and sweets, and we took some breaks and talk to each other. But the workshop was really intense. Started at 8 a.m. Friday night we started.
Oh, actually, Claude
Oh,
is
Claude
here.
is here. And guess what? As usual. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Yes, do you want to finish something before we start?
Oh,
was saying.
we were just, Celine was asking, and Basil were asking how was the retreat that we had here in New York City. Sorry, I keep calling it a retreat while it was a workshop. And I was just describing how blessed we were to all be here physically together in our living room and share experiences, listen to the teachings, and then enjoy your company in and out of the house and ride the bus with you and go to restaurants and just be like New Yorkers. It was so good to literally integrate the teachings into the hustle and bustle of New York City and just staying present and bringing that expansion of your heart and your consciousness to the buzz and to Upper East. It was just beautiful. I still feel the echoes. And then Josephine, Sheila, and I also started to share amongst each other separately, our feelings, emotions, insights. Namet and I talk about it every day. So it was definitely a very good experience.
Yes, thank you so much. It was also very beautiful for me and to be there and to join you in person. I enjoyed it very much, and you, all of you, were wonderful guests and hosts, and I felt a wonderful guest, very wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Well, here we had a little storm. I wrote Namit that I might not make it in time. It was a fierce thunderstorm, so I had to wait for a little bit of time before it passed to make it back home. But now I'm here, and let's start with a short moment of silence, and then we can dive into our sharing. So, resting in this present moment as we are. Taking a few breaths, we arrive here fully. This feeling of resting also comes with a feeling of detachment, of letting go, release. The purity and the beauty of this present moment. From our hearts, beyond success or failure, right or wrong, we offer the fruits of this meeting, of our actions, the sharing, and our entire being to the divine reality, the spiritual heart, the essence of our being, the essence of all existence. And keeping this connection to the depth of our being, we offer prayer. May our insights, recognition, depth, merits be for the benefit of all beings in all places at all times. May all beings be happy. May all beings find peace, be at peace. Keeping the eyes, keeping the feeling of the depth and intimacy, we can start to open the eyes whenever you're ready. So good to connect with all of you again. So for today, what I saw there were a couple of topics that wanted to be shared. Do you want to ask some questions maybe? Or to if you want to share something or ask some questions, and we can delve into the topics accordingly. And if there are no questions, then we can look at the subject matter and I can say a few words and maybe more questions will come from there.
Do you have a question?
You want to share your topic first?
No, my question is not a real question. It's just the topic that I had posted. You had mentioned at some point about a workshop you had done on the anatomy of the ego. So I'm curious on that subject. If there is time for talking about that later in today's talk or some other talk, we can go into that. That's just a suggestion. But Ela might have a question.
Of course I do. You know me. It's not really a question, it's actually a topic also. I was very interested in your teachings about Shiva Shakti energy, the Sat Chitananda, and how to integrate them into the day-to-day life in samsara and be in the samsara nirvana awareness consciousness, be in all of it and stay present, stay centered, stay open, detached, live joyfully, and eventually also die peacefully.
That's a very big topic.
And
So,
Josephine had the same question. I'm sorry to interrupt. She messaged on the chat.
yes, I noticed. Thank you. So what you mentioned, it is a very wide topic. It is the very topic of the spiritual unfolding itself. First of all, what arises to say right now is that the union between Shiva and Shakti, the unmanifested reality and the manifested reality, is the present moment, is the consciousness of oneness expressed in this present moment as it is right now, plus the recognition of the depth of the presence pervading everything that is happening in this present moment. And everything that is happening in the present moment can also have subtle nuances and perceptions that arise, perceptions about time, about space, perceptions that could arise in the present moment about maybe the human consciousness. So for different people with different sensitivities, with different karmas that bring different sensitivities, the present moment can have different nuances, but all of it is Shakti, is the energy, is the manifestation pervaded by Shiva, by that unmanifested reality. Now, the in many times in the teachings, it becomes quite difficult to maybe in more the common teachings, it becomes easier rather than more difficult, but it becomes easier to imbue upon Shiva and Shakti qualities so we can become devotional to a Shiva, to a Shakti. It's kind of like sometimes it's a building up of a kind of intimacy with the Shiva, with a ultimate consciousness in an unmanifested way, with Shakti, we can say the feminine principle, the mother energy, the energy of creation. So we can build relationships as a human being. And of course, the further you go from that unity of oneness in the present moment, the more the relationship between Shiva and Shakti become more human and more personal, and may even more separate in this way. Yes. So, but considering that maybe for the Western mind, we have quite a comprehensive intelligence where we can understand many nuances and subtleties and abstract. We can speak about Shiva and Shakti in that quality, in that term, in that which is maybe more abstract in this way, you see. But it's more difficult to be devotional to the present moment. It's more difficult to be devotional to existence without form. It's more difficult to be devotional to the idea of form. Or, you see, so how do I devote myself to form, or what does this mean? You see? So this is there's some advantages and disadvantages related to this. From what you ask related to integration into daily life, I would say that one of the most difficulties that we have, the piece that we are missing, we are definitely somehow very imbued in the idea of form, recognition of form. We are very much identified as consciousness with form, with the various qualities of forms, including the ego itself. And the difficulty is to recognize this unmanifested reality, Shiva, you know. So what does it mean to recognize Sat Chitananda? What does it mean to recognize pure existence, pure awareness, pure bliss? What does it mean to recognize it? It means to be it. It means to become it. But in order to become pure awareness, pure existence, pure bliss, pure peace, then our human experience, our human expression, who we are, must become very, very transparent. Yes, the human expression that we are is the mind, and the mind must become very, very transparent. Very, very transparent, so that the consciousness can pervade the mind, the forms, the ego, without catching any color. One way we can say it, the way they used to say it in the old days, is let the muddy water, which is the mind, that is infused with different vrittis, with different movements, allow it to settle down. Allow the mind to settle down. Allow the mind to become clear and transparent, or to rest in its primordial mind, to rest in that original mind. So these are some Buddhist terms, some Advaita terms. And that's the difficulty that we are facing. So how to look at our current manifested reality, but with the knowledge, with the perspective, married together with the recognition of the depth of our being, so deep that it can even escape the very net of forms, the net of the mind that is like a fish. So anything that has form, the net of the mind can catch, you see. But if it's formless, then it slips between the eyes of the net of the mind, and it becomes free and recognized in that way. From that freedom that exists there, the mind and the forms start to be, the relationship that we have with them starts to transform, you see. The more we rest in that pure depth, the more the relationship through this human being, through this human mind, human body, the relationship with form starts to become a relationship of gratitude, love, beauty, recognition, and like a mirror that is able to reflect itself into it. So we can say that this is the movement. There could be another movement where we can go through Shakti itself, through form, to recognize the Shiva, to be able to recognize the supreme reality, the divine reality, maybe in a positive way. In the Christian tradition, they would call it via positiva, where you are going through the form itself. In my experience, I think it requires quite a special karma to be able to do this. And I feel that they can never truly be separated, just like the yin and the yang. The yang has a little bit of yin in it, and the yin has a little bit of yang in it. Even when we go through the form, at some point comes a recognition of the formless, you see. So, but I feel somehow this path is a little bit more difficult. I can imagine how one might be in nature, alone, somehow expansive, untouched by the necessity. So I imagine someone being in nature, having sufficient food, like the Garden of Eden. Maybe even a partner is not might not be recommended there. So I imagine the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, and they're having their conversations, and they might influence each other. You see, wait, should we eat the apple? Should we not? And or whereas there could be a way of being in nature and expansive in such a way where you start to lose yourself. You see, you start to refer to yourself in that ego way, and something starts to release there. I don't know if we have the karma. There are some people who do that. They become spontaneously hermits, and they go in nature, and there could be an expansion through nature, through gratitude, through beauty, into a silence and a stillness that arises there. The structured path of the spiritual paths that we have never really point to that. There might be beings who arrive in that way, but our tendency is to go that way. Our tendency is to go this way. Our tendency is to go through the senses, through what we see, through our relationships. I just feel is very difficult because in a way it's a tantric process, but without having already the recognition of the presence, without having the recognition of the depth. An expansion needs to happen in such a way that at some point it becomes total, almost like a crystalline, like a moment of stopping, of just remaining, even though things continue to be dynamic. And there, the recognition of that depth could arise there, of that stillness, of that presence. So that's why often the tendency is, and I think there's a wisdom to this and a practical wisdom, and it has to do with our human psychology or the human karma in the general human consciousness of humanity, that we tend to become a little bit of ascetic, to absorb ourselves a little bit, and to start recognizing the depth, and to bring that depth into our daily life. And even this process can happen in different gradations. So someone can live in a common life, then they may have a moment of being touched by something that is beautiful, and then they might read some poetry of Rumi. They might understand the particular level of that Rumi poetry, not all the way, not the nuances, and then they already bring, something about Rumi, about love, about the potential of universal love, touches me, and then there you bring it into your relationship, into eating the food, into your life, into going out into nature. It's not deep, it's not the ultimate depth, it's not, but it could arise in that way, see? But then you bring it into the world, and then another movement may come of a deeper depth. And why does that happen? I don't know. I would say it's a moment of grace, or that original movement that took you towards that depth is not complete. Something is not resting. So you can recognize beauty everywhere. It could be joyous. You can even start to recognize suffering as like, I accept it. I accept sadness as a human condition. It's an intuition. But then from there, again, the path goes deeper into the heart, more silence, more freedom. At some point, that depth starts to transcend the very humanity itself. You see, so am I a man? Am I a woman? From this perspective of the soul, what do I cling to? Do I cling to luxury, to money? What makes sense? What brings a deeper meaning to my life? Not a meaning related to my existentialist crisis, but a deeper meaning that is self-feeding, a meaning that by itself is sufficient, doesn't need to refer to something else. So So kind of like a stability within yourself, in the name of yourself, for the sake of yourself, without comparing yourself to any spiritual path, to any other human being, to anybody else's spiritual path or realization. So you're resting deeper and deeper into that self-sufficiency, into that. And so that movement goes again into the world. It wants to reflect that depth into the world, to recognize it. And then again, deeper. So we are having this spiral, or going back and forth and deepening more and more. I was very lucky in the beginning. I heard just this sentence where someone was saying, realize being, and I trusted very much this teacher, or I chose to trust it. It was a choice. And he said, must transcend all mental perspectives, must transcend all mental perspectives, all, not only an opinion, but the very mental position must be transcended. And I took that to heart, and that was the practice in a very fierce way. All mental perspectives, all mental positions. So at any one point, any one present moment, how do you choose to remain without a mental position? And mental position could be the locality of the body, the fact that you are a body, to have a gender, to have an opinion, to know something, to know anything, to grasp onto something, to want to become something. So like an emptiness starts to arise there, you're emptying yourself. Of course, it's a very subtle nuance to recognize you are having a mental position. So you work from the gross aspects to more and more subtle. In that, many things dissolve. The idea of devotion, to be devotional or not, the idea of sacredness, the idea of right and wrong, good and bad. So things start to dissolve. But as the mental position dissolves, the forms, the presence, they all remain. Also, they start to remain, so, but they remain free. The physical body doesn't dissolve because you don't take yourself to be the physical body. So the physical body is still there, and that becomes the true integration, I would say, at a deep, deep level. When you start to release, you don't let go of your desires because they are wrong. You don't let go of your fears or desires because you shouldn't eat croissant or chocolate cake because there's something wrong with that. You're just looking from a different place. You are simply wanting to let go of the mental perspective. Am I someone who likes chocolate cake, and do I need to like it? Or what does it, why am I holding on, or why am I fighting for it? Or internally, what is the resistance? What am I grasping? So but you don't even ask the questions. At some point, you just let go of it. And as soon as you let go, it becomes free. The chocolate cake doesn't disappear. The human doesn't disappear. The preference for the chocolate cake doesn't disappear. The taste buds reacting in a wild way to the richness of the chocolate cake doesn't disappear. None of the forms disappear. You see, but a freedom is there, because who is there who enjoys chocolate cake? Who or what? So this starts to become a practice in a different way. And that is the integration of Shiva and Shakti. And this is the awakening to the Sat Chitananda in its purest form. Ultimately, pure existence, pure awareness, and pure bliss. Of course, originally it was meant to be that pure unmanifested reality. Yes, the reality that is pure existence. That means existence without form. Pure awareness, awareness without concepts, thoughts, just by itself, pure consciousness. Pure bliss, a bliss that is not about a rapture or something that comes through the physical body or through the human recognition of some pleasure or bliss. So we are aiming for that purity, but from another perspective, from a different context, from a different fractal embrace of everything, or from a different dimensional embrace, isn't this pure, this moment, this present moment, isn't it pure existence? Why can pure existence, why does it have to be separated from form? See, so the pure existence includes these words and these bodies and everything else. This inclusion of the pure existence, that all of this, all these forms and movements of the present moment can only come or starts to arise when the consciousness of oneness, when the supreme reality is the totality. When it's not separated, then this present moment with all its forms all at once is the pure existence, which includes existence without form and existence as form all together simultaneously in the same time. But that's not the human perspective. It doesn't hold a mental perspective, and it doesn't hold the perspective of me wanting or not wanting the chocolate cake. The ego may have a preference, but it's just an impulse. It's not a me there. It's just a pattern, an impulse there. So these are some contemplations, maybe that can be put in words. The present moment is pure awareness, awareness as form, awareness as pervading all movements, all forms. Everything is happening in awareness, as awareness. The present moment is the pure bliss, the pure beauty, the pure spanda, the pure grace, the pure love. It is free and it exists free from form. So it doesn't need form for it to exist, but also in the present moment is manifesting itself also unseparated as form. So these words are pure bliss, and your perception of these words are pure bliss, and your perception as a human being is pure bliss, and your sadness is pure bliss, and your desire to know more about this integration is pure bliss, and you start to relate to it from a different, unexplained, mysterious dimension of our being. And then that relationship, the quality and the taste, the relationship with the present moment starts to shift. And as this starts to happen, the sense of me also starts to be transparent. There's still a me, but it's a transparent me. It's no longer the container of my entire reality. The mind is not there. It's a me that is there. There is a me here, and the me is beautiful, very much beautiful. Yes, but I'm not a me. And then the consciousness is no longer just this single form. Well, anyway, maybe I will stop here, see if there are any questions or commentaries or clarifications. Right.
I have a question. Thank you for what you said. That was really really beautiful. I read recently a description of Shakti and Shiva and Kundalini, and I wanted to ask you if that seems like a correct description to you. They were saying that Shakti is basically located at the root chakra, and that when Kundalini arises, Shakti goes up to meet Shiva, which is, more at the crown chakra. Is that a correct description?
Yes, it is one of the descriptions.
Okay.
And that description is very much based on the human anatomy, on the physical body. The fact that we say there's a Muladhara chakra that is somewhere low and Sahasrara that is somewhere here, and there's a spinal cord. So from the human perspective of someone who starts to work with the energies and starts to move, to feel energies moving up the Shushumna Nadi, so it's part of our structure, then that's a very perfect and good description and very traditional. See, but is Shakti, the Supreme Shakti, living in my Muladhara? You see, or
Yeah, because so if that's correct, my other question was, in that case, is there, I mean, of course, I'm thinking like more logically here, and maybe I should not, but does it mean in that case that there is an energy that has a lower, that's a bit lower in the hierarchy of the energies, and that is Shiva the highest one and the one we want to reach, and Shakti is a bit more lower, or no? And what about Kundalini then? So,
yes, these are very difficult things to elucidate in words and in a meeting. That's why they are, for example, for the past 3 modules in Hridaya, we have been speaking about Kundalini Shakti. Module 5, Module 6, Module 7, 4, Module 5, 4, 6, 7, and 8. And still we haven't finished. And it's like a month long, and we are having different perspectives. So don't try. First of all, it's very important to understand why you are asking the questions. What is the practice? What is the situation that is happening for you as a practitioner? If you are curious to understand, to identify something that is happening in you, then you must follow that authentic experiential thing. If you want to understand, to be prepared for it, then that may have a different, then accumulating different versions or just one version, understanding very well. But I will never stamp it. I will never say this is the way it is. And I know I'm making an error here. Knowing human mind, I found out that often by refusing to give a very concrete and confident answer about something, then the mind of the one who answered or who is receiving that remains a little bit fuzzy, and fuzzy might mean they might forget about it. They don't have a sense of safety or security because the knowledge is not concrete. Then they're going to look for somewhere else and say, tell me what it is so I can know. So but in doing so, you can get that, so we can say something concrete and confident and yes, I got it, this is it. But that's not it. You see, is not it, because the contemplation about Kundalini is very profound. What is Muladhara chakra for it to have a Kundalini? And is the Kundalini my Kundalini, or is the Kundalini the Supreme Shakti, which is the totality of all existence? What does it mean? Your second question can be answered not by speaking about lower energy and high energy, but rather Sahasrara is, let's say, relegated as a place that brings in us as a human being through the movement of the energy, maybe the way that soul enters the body, as described in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is relegated as a place of more emptiness, of stillness. You see, an exit into the void, the unmanifested reality. Is it true to say that the void in my being and the supreme reality in my being as that unmanifested reality sits here on the top of my head or above? It cannot be. By very nature, it has to spontaneously exist everywhere. That's what formless means. So it cannot be here only. But my perception through particular practices indeed could feel that when I focused energetically and I compare energetically to different qualities of energy and consciousness, here I tend to be more detached. So there is something related to the physical body, energetic structure related to the physical body that helps this. But also, if we go a little bit deeper, we know it cannot be here. It cannot be here. And Shakti can only be Muladhara. Isn't my heart chakra also Shakti? Is in my throat, is in the mind also Shakti with all its forms. So where does Kundalini start and how does it work? So because of this, it's always wonderful to keep it as a wordless mystery that is ungraspable. But when it works to the specific movement of energy through a human being, you see, that may happen to someone, then we address that in a very common way. We don't complicate it in this fuzzy way. You say, yes, you feel something very strong and powerful in your Muladhara chakra. We will call that Kundalini. It's not a complete knowledge or understanding. And that energy wants to move along your spine. And sometimes you feel it as vibration and tickling and whatnot is the prana Kundalini. So one of the forms of Kundalini. It can also be um, um, Chit Kundalini, a movement of consciousness, for example. So they are different kinds of Kundalini, you see. And then that one, I start to focus on my Shushumna Nadi, purify my channels, purify the different levels of the chakras, and then purify my Sahasrara, start connecting through meditation, through more and more void, self-inquiry, surrender, moments of absorption into that intuition of the formless or the awareness of the formless. And then somehow these two want to unite. The form and the formless want to come together. So when we want to make Kundalini Shakti a goddess, Devi, when we want to make Shiva the ultimate non-manifested reality, then they are in love. Shakti wants union with Shiva. You see, they are embracing each other everywhere, all at once. They are awakening to each other's recognition. So the words are very, very beautiful, you see, in this way, and it can create a devotion. So we learn, for example, that instead of working with energies and pushing and moving, is much more helpful and beautiful to be a devotional movement. You see, I feel Mother Kundalini alive within my being at the level of Muladhara. And she loves, Devi loves to unite with Shiva. And Shiva is pulling her up, is pulling her from everywhere. And then Shakti is expanding up, you know. So, but it's not lower or higher. Shiva is also in Muladhara chakra as well. And Kundalini can be in Muladhara chakra as well. And then we can speak about Kundalinis that start from the heart, from Anahata, or we can start about Kundalini that are spherical, you see. So they are a few other descriptions as well. But in a very traditional way, we can start with that mental construct, and we can work with it, believe in it, and devote ourselves to that movement and to the various spiritual practices that can help to enhance, to purify the channels, to create a space for that beautiful Kundalini arising. But secretly, in the small print, or kind of like a little, you know how on the photos sometimes they put like a little ghost mark, like a watermark. There we have the, in parenthesis, small print, or in the watermark, we say, this is still a mental perspective. You know, this is not the complete, this is not it. This is not it as the mind would want it. There's, even this is dissolved. Even this is not it, but it helps for now. So I hope I didn't confuse you with my answer. But yes, there is, it's much more difficult to remain open and to allow something to be and to absorb it, but to not close its edges, but rather to allow the edges to still be mysteriously unknown and open, so a deeper understanding can come. The concept is open, we can say an open concept or a transparent structure that allows things to continuously unfold, and other recognitions arise there as well. I wish that the spiritual path was as simple as a very structured mental thing, and it can be described like this. And I think we should follow the structure for the first 75% beginning of our path. I wouldn't let go of the structure. I would approach it that way. Otherwise, it can become confusing or messy or non-directed. So still, but then at some point you start to read the small print. Yes. And yes, and that structure should move you, position you in a place where the discernment, where you can also say, I don't know. And it's actually is the perfect thing that should happen right now, is I don't know, a deeper surrender from structure. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That was actually very helpful. And I asked the question because that's something that I felt inside of me, but my mind wants to try to understand what's going on. But yeah, no, that was yeah. I guess as human who have a mind, we need as you said, a mental construct so that we don't get too lost. So we
Yeah.
have kind of a map, let's say. But then, you know, I mean, when we meditate, I think we all felt that the map crumbles, and you know, it's more like spreading out and expansive. And but yeah, so that was very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So yes, if you felt this experientially, then honor. My recommendation would be with Kundalini also, it would amplify many things within your being. So it needs to start to become a process of purification for you as well, of many aspects of your consciousness related to the what we can, another structure that we can speak about, the structure of the consciousness of the different chakras and the energies of the different chakras. It's still a structure, but still we can become aware. For example, fiery, it's associated with Manipura chakra, associated with the navel. Maybe it's perfect, maybe it's not so perfect, but we can already choose to work with, when I get fiery, when I have the Manipura chakra consciousness qualities, frustrated, violent, ambitious, determined, when all of these things are here, how do I purify these elements, you know. So when the Kundalini starts to arise, then the frustration that you might be able to drop in a polite way, you know, is like, I ask for my cacao or for my coffee to be like this. And they didn't do it what you wanted to. And it's like, but I came here every day for the past last year. You don't know how I want my coffee. So then you're in a hurry, and then the frustration might arise. Well, what do you usually say? But let me be polite. You know, I'm going to come here tomorrow. They're just a human being. I'm frustrated, but well, with Kundalini, it's not going to be like that. The frustration is going to stick out. So now you need to be able to understand the roots of frustration, the psychology of how to not identify with a sense of superiority of right and wrong. With it's just an example, you see, so, and become so strong that now it becomes visible. If your frustration is very strong, very visible, and you are not on a path of surrender, of dissolution, of dedication, of asking the question, who am I? So you can release anything, no matter how it's justified. If you're not on that path, then that frustration for the ego at the level of justification in me and my rights and how should I be treated, it can become very strong. And then it can start to create more suffering. So Kundalini has two edges. One of them is it can be a divine gift and a grace that starts to wake you up. And then the other edge is you have to work really hard, and you're going to face yourself in a mirror that is very shiny, very reflective, and very near. And so the path of bringing self-inquiry to all levels, all difficulties, all wounds, all traumas in your life need to start to arise there in a conscious way, and with a sense of devotion to the spiritual heart, to the supreme reality of surrender. Yes. So it can be very, very beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So
No.
I have been for the past few days or weeks, I have been contemplating on karma yoga and purification related to karma yoga. And I read like in spiritual books and Bhagavad Gita and the Buddha's teachings, they say that attachment to the outcomes of your karma tends to lead you to suffering. And I understand that very strongly, uh, but it's still an intellectual understanding. So if you could share some words on how to approach karma yoga from the perspective of doing your karma with full sincerity and then letting go of the outcome and not getting attached to the outcome, that would be great.
Yes. Thank you for this. Actually, I was planning to give a karma yoga talk in preparation for the karma yoga immersion course on August 30th or August 31st, on a Saturday or on a Sunday. It might not be the most popular time. Maybe it could be also on a Friday, so I still have to decide the date at a time that is, but I thought Sunday would be a good time, or Saturday, because you'll be available both for the for people in Europe, and is related to the Karma Yoga immersion course that is going to start at the end of September, September 22nd. And that will be a very powerful course that we'll be doing there for 75 days with me, very intensive. So definitely the topic of the Karma Yoga is very important. I feel that when the sages, the books say, if you become attached to the fruits of your actions, you will suffer, suffering will come. It's descriptive and it is true, but something is still hidden there. The implication is that you will suffer if you attach yourself to the fruits of your actions, and secretly you are still honoring this fear that you will suffer. So let me not do that, so I don't enter in a kind of suffering of myself. Let me avoid the suffering, you see. So, but in that moment you reiterate the sense of me, the fear of suffering, and so on. And I think it's perfectly okay to say to the masses, to all the people, or as a general statement, and it is true, if you attach yourself to the fruits of the actions, you will become you are identified, and because of that identification, you suffer. You suffer also because you are attached to the fruits of your actions. So this is a true statement, but what is not implied in this statement is that there is a you that should suffer or should not suffer, and so on. So another approach to it would be to say, if I attach myself to the fruits of my action, then I reiterate me and I reiterate the identification of me, you see? And this me wants for things to be one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
Now I can do a spiritual practice where the me and the I am feeling, starts to become detached from this I am feeling and that I am feeling. And thank you, Celine. Thank you for coming. So in this becoming detached from this I am feeling and that I am feeling, then you start to remain more as this I am, as this aham vritti, as this separated feeling of existence, but in its pure form. And so this can work very well. I am detached from the fruits of my actions. That means that I still am a me, but I become free. If I do this, if I do that, right, wrong, it doesn't matter, I'm free. But a deeper perspective, you become detached from me and from I. Then there, spontaneously, you will also release the fruits of the actions. So the things are happening, but not in the name of me. The things are not happening for my benefit, because there isn't a me that I'm going to try to add things to myself. They are just happening. It's just karma happening. Like Krishna said, gunas upon gunas, the karma unfolding in this way. Thank you also, William, and we will continue to stay in touch. I received your message. Thank you. So I hope that this can make sense. That you can feel the nuance between the two, you see? So, of course, at any moment when you are in your mind and you are in that dealing with, I'm an ego, I'm at the level of my personality, I'm caught in wanting something from my actions, then the practice is try to release being attached to the fruits of the actions. And actually the invitation is offer it to the divine reality, offer it to the supreme reality, offer the fruits of my action, and whatever the benefits, the failure and the success, to the supreme reality, So then that starts to become the practice of consecration. So that makes perfect sense, and it's a very good place to start from, yes? But at a later level, a deeper level, you start to release the me who, when say, don't I must not become attached to the fruits of the actions. Okay, then let's drop I. You see, then let's drop I. And then fruits of the actions won't be there. So then you enter into different kind of practices, working as if the things are just happening spontaneously. There isn't a me here. Whatever I do becomes free from the idea of superior, inferior, good and bad, success or failure. Of course, the deepest harmony that exists within us as a human being will call forth through that harmonious understanding the desire to be successful, the desire to complete task, the desire to do something that is beneficial to the human consciousness, to the world, to the environment. But that is part of the present moment spontaneity that gives you that indication, is not a personal value that you have. You see, so that starts to become the distinction. Yes. So for example, you walk down the street and then you see that a baby bird fell on the floor. You see, so now you say, well, there's no me. Okay. So, okay, even if there's no me, is there a sense of harmony that comes from this human being? Yes, this human being tends to be altruistic. Okay, let's follow that. And then there's a bird on the floor, and then there's a nest that I can reach there. Okay, am I doing a good act or a bad act? I don't know. But I feel in a very alive way that this needs to go there. You see, am I attached to the action of success or failure? Do I want the bird to live? Yes, but maybe he may live, maybe he may not. Do I want to take credit for doing something good? Maybe I want to take credit, but I try to come from that place where this action itself is spontaneous, neutral, and naturally follows a harmony related to that present moment. And part of the harmony of that present moment is that I am a human being, or there is this human being that has preferences, altruism, generosity, compassion, love, and all of these things. So those actions are affected also by this alchemical element. So what in your daily life, I mean, a typical example we can say could be if you are detached, if you're trying to do something and you really want to be successful at it, and it's very, very important to be successful at it. And maybe you are successful at it, and maybe you say, look at me, how wonderful I did, I'm so successful at it. Yes. Then there you're going to construct, you're going to add to the sense of me, the self, that sense of identification with the persona, with the image that you are. I'm the one who's very successful at this and whatnot. And not only that thing in itself might at some point lose that success, could become a failure, which in itself can produce suffering. The form transforms, the death of form produces suffering psychologically and so on. But also the very fact that your image is the image of someone who is successful, who is viewed in a particular way, who view yourself in a particular way, can be attacked and can be damaged, can be distorted or impinged upon events, you see. So trying to act without trying to act the best that we can doesn't mean that we are attached to success or failure or to right and wrong. You see, so this is the difference. Trying to act the best and the most harmonious that we can in the present moment. And that starts to remove a little bit the mental value and the measurement I'm successful, I'm not, he was right, he was wrong, what felt right now, good, I invested all my money in the stock market and I did amazing, I did good. And then the stock market collapses and then everything goes really bad. It's like, oh, now I did a mistake. I did a mistake that I did that. I should have not put the money in the stock market. I should have gone into the real estate. You see? So you did right in the beginning, but then you was wrong later on, and then this is where suffering can come for a human being. But these things can be transcended both at the human level. Try to do the best that you can and be detached psychologically, but still maintain the sense of harmony. And at a deeper spiritual level, even letting go of I, you see, in the same way, but letting go of I. Yes.
Is that to somehow meditate on the feeling of I amness? Would that help or something else?
It could definitely help. So whenever you absorb yourself towards the feeling of I amness, then you can become very much free, more and more free from attaching yourself from success or failure, because your sense of home or your sense of identity or beauty or the sense of um, um, stability, your home becomes the I am. Whereas without having this deeper stability, our sense of home becomes my chocolate cake, my comfortable couch, my TV show, my bank account, my fame that I have at work or by writing a book. So is the external image of myself becomes a sense of self. So withdrawing yourself in the I am feeling freeze definitely starts to become bring a lot of freedom from your actions. You see, you can still be very intelligent, very profound, very impactful, very powerful actions, and they should be. They should be in the sense like the advice is don't minimize your potential as a sacred and divine creative power that you are, as a human being. Don't diminish that. So don't make the mistake of diminishing. So always do the best in the most harmonious way, but not in the name of me or my image. This I am feeling is just the witness and the presence in which many, many of these things are happening. That means if things are unsuccessful in your life, this is the test.
Yes.
Then you never feel at any point separated from that home. Oh, unsuccess happened with the business that I started. But I am home. I am at home. Yes, that way. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, Adrian. Yes.
Hi, Cloud. It's
Yes.
so sweet. Thank you. Just coming on the call, I was remembering so much of the perfume of being in retreat with you, and that it was with you that I've experienced the deepest openings, in my path, and so I was like spiritually blushing, just remembering kind of like that freedom, and it's so nice to listen. My my question is the well, I have two questions, but I'll start with one and we'll see where it goes. The question is about, how each of us have our own karma, and so there's a very unique path of, for example, what hurts the most, where like for example, my doorway for compassion, just in life, what it's like, where it's like, ow, that really hurts, and where I can let my heart break is we each have like a very specific, unique doorways in this way, as far as I can tell. And for me, it has a lot to do with relationship, with human relationship, and where relationship is broken, where whenever it is that I see that suffering happens because we cannot listen to each other, we cannot feel each other as humans in this way. And so I'm a psychotherapist, as I think you already know, but my question is about how I don't know if you've heard of somebody, I think I may have even asked about this before, but named Thomas Hubel. He's a teacher, a spiritual teacher in the world that does a lot of individual and collective healing, brings very large groups of people to do trauma healing, but also with mysticism. And a lot of that work, my question is about a lot of what I'm devoting myself in my life, in the work that I'm devoting myself, how you see how one can be the deepest way to be of service. Because I believe, for example, when I listen to you, that you are connected and you are devoted to what you see as I'm talking about the things, looking at the things, bringing the parts that seem to be the most powerful for according to your own alignment, I'm imagining. And that this, or at least that there's an attempt, but that there's something that I'm trying to bring together in my own work. And this is something that I'm, in the courses that I teach, or even the sessions that I give, about relational healing, that is that the places where maybe the context is where I don't know how to be me, I cannot give up me. That if I'm attempting to give up my sense of me, or to be free, to really be free, but without first being able to feel and to be me, then from my experience, it doesn't seem possible to do this as the form that I am. And so in a way, I'm spending and I'm investing a lot of my time of my work to help people realize more and more that that the full range of their emotions is lovable and belongs in this world. And that I see that it's through that work of, we're talking about like anything, but a person who's constantly getting into trouble in relationships or at their work or whatever it is in their family. And why is that? And there's a place where they tighten up, or I tighten up in my life. And then when I'm tight, I can't see. And I see a relationship between this tightness is not free, But then the way that I know here, like I have in the context from working with you, this question of who am I, right? There's that whole background of that process of being able to say, oh, well, yes, there's like that big, big process of if I'm able to really become free in the sense of I, how that changes everything. But then how much work is necessary into is there an order to life to respect? That I guess part of my question is I feel this calling to help people belong emotionally, and that once that belonging expands, then inside of that freedom to help elucidate the sense of that freedom that is that union, and that freedom that is, oh, I can be or not be this. And then right there's that fluidity. There's like a flow of experience rather than something that feels like a solid thing that cannot be included really and felt. So my question is, from your perspective, in the way that you hold what it's like, like the deepest ways to be of service in life. This side of relational healing, and being able to bring in the parts that have been really afraid, or the parts that have been really holding back from participating in life. How do you see this kind of work in the context of, I don't know what to call it, if it's Hridaya Yoga or just your own perspective, in terms of how to keep a balance maybe, between doing that relational work and bringing also the awareness of non-dual teachings and the sense of the foundational reality. Yeah. So this is part of my question, if you have any thoughts about, I guess I admire the way that you perceive things, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts, just about, as I voyage into continuing to invest myself in this direction.
Thank you, Adrian, for your question.
Cloud,
Yes.
I think may I ask, I have a question that I think builds on Adrian's question. May I
Yes.
add it quickly? I think, Adrian, thank you so much for a beautiful question. It really resonated with me. And I think, I mean, my example is more kind of personal, but I think from what I understand that Adrian is asking and talking about is something that I run into a lot. I think a lot of my own path and my healing and my karma has been about both identifying, getting to know my own emotional landscape, and also accepting it to begin with. And I think for me, speaking as someone who came from a family, a culture, as many of us do, where it wasn't okay, it wasn't normal, it wasn't acceptable for me to have my own feelings and thoughts, especially if they rubbed up against the rest of the family, the rest of the community. So I think for me, and again, Adrian, I don't, this is what I'm taking away from what you said, but I think sometimes for me, this learning has been in steps because there is a part of me that I feel like on an emotional level or even on a very visceral level, when I hear the non-dual teachings, I know that that's not what the non-dual teachings are getting at, but there's a very primal part of me that still braces because I feel like for much of my life, I've been told, don't feel what you feel. This is too much. This is not okay. And then I internalized those messages for a long time. And so I think that part of me that still doesn't feel entirely safe emotionally, when that part of me hears the non-dual teachings, what that part hears is, well, you need to erase yourself and you need to get rid of your sense of I, which again, I realize is not really what non-dualism is teaching us. But I think there's this tension between that part of me that I'm still trying to strengthen in a way, and maybe that's more on an emotional, psychological level. But I think I do find myself asking some of the questions that I understand Adrian to be asking. is there sometimes, I'm not saying it's like 1, 2, 3, okay, check. Now I feel emotionally safe for the rest of my life. And then I go on to practice the non-dual teachings. I realize it's obviously not so straightforward, but I guess maybe kind of, connecting to Adrian's framing, it's like there's a certain sense of balance. There's a certain, for me, maybe a certain foundation of safety that is necessary for me, given my history and my karma, that then allows me the space and safety to open up my heart, my spirit, my soul to letting go of that sense of self and the sense of me. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Josephine. Yes. One of the things that is important to understand is that you cannot let go of something you don't know that you are grasping. You cannot let go of something you don't know you are grasping. So you must become aware. It's all a process of awakening and becoming aware. Some teachings point to instead of entering into the entirety of all the different details of what I'm grasping, they are coming directly to the I. And they say, if I let go of the I, if I release the I, don't think of it of getting rid of it. Because in your question, Josephine, you can say, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, which you want to do this? And they, I know it's a perennial question, but it's more about the consciousness that you are, the awareness that you are, the depth that you are, the you that you are before the me, before the story, the you that are there before you think, before you have thoughts, before you have anything that arises. That one, that original primordial one, you see, that one, you see, that one could recognize that is that one, is not letting go of anything. So there will be a process of the kind of like approaching by investigating. We can speak about destroying, letting go, releasing, and diminishing or destroying the ego, but let's not use those negative words. Let's use positive words. You are investigating what that I is, and you are recognizing that you are not a multiplicity of many things that you take yourself to be. Or you are not only those things, you see. But for someone to approach this path of looking and investigating fiercely the feeling of I, of who I am, it really requires a keen interest in the truth, a kind of burning, a burning that it becomes so powerful that many things don't they are not they don't have sufficient power to withstand this burning. So it may happen that you be something like well, my parents in my family, so sorry if I representing what you said, but let's say to go along with the thing, with your story, with the sharing that you had, and say, in my family, I felt, or I'm feeling, that as I grew up, I had to control myself. I couldn't be fully myself or express myself fully as I am. Let's say, maybe that's the feeling. And like I felt a constriction, and I still have that pattern of constricting myself, So you see, and then let's say that you wake up and in the middle of the night, you see a UFO landing in your front yard. And then you see some men or women or beings coming there, some space people. And then you imagine how fascinated you be after that, You say, it's like, wow, I'm so fascinated about this. It's like there was a spaceship that arrived in my town, in my yard, and then the people that I met. It's like extraordinary. This is extraordinary. This is amazing. And then during that fascination that you are having with the UFO and the space people and so on, you will not think about there were space people, but in my family I couldn't be myself fully. You see, it's like you are in a completely different state of interest, fascination, or mystery, or burning towards that thing that is there, that just happened with the UFO. But now replace that UFO with dawning upon you that I don't know who I am. The one that I took myself to be for so many years is actually not, I don't really know. So that fascination, or you may say, well, what is the ultimate truth? Or what is the spiritual reality as an experience? Or something which we can call the spiritual path, but something that fascinates you, that you are burning for it. And then in the middle of this, your mind may say, yes, Josephine, I know you're interested in the absolute truth, but with your family, you weren't able to be yourself. And then in that burning that you have, you say, it's like, I don't care about my family, and whether I was myself or not cannot be the ultimate truth. You see, is not it. I'm interested somehow beyond it. So when that burning is there, when that burning is there in that way, many of these things can burn up without some other considerations. You see, so this is the part one. Yes. Now, part two is that the fascination is there, the intuition about the truth or the spiritual depth or something is there, but that flame is not so cutting in such a way that the details don't matter. When the burn is very, very strong, then anything can go in that fire. Anything can go in that fire, until you can take that fire, until you can touch that depth, you are burning and nothing can stand in the way. But when we are having a moment, maybe some plant medicine, or maybe some intuition, or a poem, or meditation retreat, and things arise, and there's just moments that appear in our lives that are very special and important. But then from those moments, it's like, wow, that sounds amazing. But then we now rest as we are. We are resting as we are in that human beingness that we are. Then in that moment, it matters a lot that it stands for you. One cannot go further. It's like until now I didn't see, and now I'm seeing so clearly that I wasn't able to be myself in my family, you see? And And that is important to me. And that becomes the new fascination. You see? So that aliveness that you have becomes the fascination. And that aliveness can start to consume other things. So when you're working into how can I be fully myself in life, even as a ego, as a human being, then in a moment you don't care about which ice cream flavor you get. There are other things that you don't care about, you see. And then the truth, it's not necessarily the most important thing in such a burning way right now. Or on the way to the truth, you feel that you need to be here and to understand this or to release this. And then that's what you will do. And now to address Adrian's question, also, so you are addressing this embracing of what is happening here, which is a way of awakening the awareness. All of it means awaken the awareness. So seeing yourself as not being fully yourself, seeing your ego as being a bit more constricted, seeing this need for freedom to be more me, all of these things, it's an act of awareness and awakening. See, and we're awakening to see the ego. But here it comes an important, essential clarity. In the name of what? In the name of what am I going to see all of these things? And if you're going to have clients or work with clients, you cannot impose upon them in the name of waking up or in the name of the truth. So you can bring the awareness and presence that can bring healing there. It can bring release of stories, release of perspectives, because in a way you are awakening the witness consciousness. And that witness consciousness, the form of consciousness, that because it's more neutral, it has the power to forgive, it has the power of love, it has the power of embracing. So that depth has the power of transformation, but that is not sufficient if it doesn't have that spiritual direction. See, you can create the conditions for the spiritual direction, but you cannot impose a spiritual direction. Because of this, is quite different, for example, to ask the question, who am I? Because I want to know the truth. I want to wake up to who I am deeper, to the deepest, most spiritual authenticity. And it's another thing to heal myself or to release my ego in particular instances, you see. The other thing with the ego is that things can become very, very, I should take care because I need to put a battery in my laptop. But what I wanted to say is even the ego becomes more and more refined. As we become more and more noble, it becomes more and more refined. So without the interest to have a quantum jump or to release or to have a different perspective than from within the ego, there's a healing and transformation and whatnot, then that quantum jump won't happen, but you become more refined and we can look more and more refined. I healed that big chunk of things in my life, I let them go. And now I am going to look at more subtle things and how does this work? And then more refined and more refined. And then at which point are you going to say, okay, I'm changing the channel. I'm not interested in the ego. The ego is sufficiently transparent for me to do that quantum jump and to jump. And that cannot be imposed. And of course, to bring the biggest benefit to the world would be for you to go through this process of awakening, while in the most compassionate way, understanding not everyone is there now. So you can definitely help someone to transcend and to heal issues related to the ego, personality, patterns that are structured in such a way that they feed themselves, self-iterating, but also with the wisdom to know whether this being is interested in something more than that or not. You can bring the depth, but you cannot impose the spiritual interest or the thirst, you see. it still touches that person. You will still touch them. Something will be touched within them, but not necessarily in a conscious way. They might enter on a spiritual path, which means that somewhere within the system, there will still be suffering related to fear of death or other people dying and so on. So yeah, these are some perspectives. If you just give me 1 second just to add, to feed my laptop with electricity. Yes. So yes, does this make sense? Josephine, Adrian, do you want to ask like follow-up questions or clarification or something not sitting there? I could add that I wouldn't approach the spiritual path of self-inquiry as a way to get rid of the ego. It'll be more about following an inner passion towards a depth and a deepening. And when we speak about letting go of the ego, is more from a very bird's eye perspective, you see. But the work that we do is not, let me get rid of the ego. You cannot, you cannot let go of the ego. So the work that you do, you be very detailed. It's not going to be the bird's eye perspective that's only there to maybe feed sometimes an intuition or direction. You be being in the authenticity of the present moment and following that aliveness that exists within you. And if the aliveness is healing certain aspects of the ego, then you follow that. What becomes interesting, and sometimes the advice comes, when both the healing of the ego comes very strong and the burning for the truth comes very strong. See? And if both of them are there simultaneously, then the advice starts to make perfect sense. If you're interested in burning for the truth, don't worry about resolving every detail with the ego. Only when you feel it gets in the way, then resolve, But that's because both are alive and strong. You see, so, and then the spiritual practitioner doesn't know what to do. Should I fix my ego because, it's like, and then yes, no, try to follow the burning towards the truth, and the ego will come along with that process, you see. But if the needing to take care of you, if the fear of letting go of the ego is there, or the concern, or not the letting go, but the movement, then you don't worry about that. Then you have awakened to one level of freedom. One awakens to one level of freedom, and from that level of freedom, they want to integrate that level of freedom. So you start to deepen in your life by having a deeper understanding of your ego, maybe family life, relationships, and whatnot. And now that intuition brought you there because of suffering or something brought you to that spiritual endeavor. And now you take that and you integrate it in your life by tasting the freedom, by, let's say, becoming free from the version of the parents of how you should live, by being yourself, by saying the things that you think, by bringing that into the family life, and by trying to not follow the patterns that were producing you suffering, so to not spread them to others, to not reflect them internally, to not have your mother, father, partner, brother, sister, uncle, lover inside of you, even though they are long gone from your day-to-day life, So you start to, and that becomes a beautiful integration in that way. So that's, you integrate that freedom, that you start to wake up. Once you start to wake up to your own recognition that something happened there that was not harmonious, and then you start to integrate that freedom into your daily life. And once that is integrated more, then you see in a year or two, it will be like you will might even forget, unless you are reiterating. But if it's really, really released, you start to forget. Ah, yeah, my parents used to do this to me, but I figured out, and now what's next? You know, it's like, so yes. Always on the spiritual path, try the best to not enter from any space of aversion or enmity, or making something wrong, or the enemy, or yes, but try all from a positive perspective as much as possible. Whenever you see something, not fear, I should get rid of this, destroy that, and then open your eyes, open all your eyes, not only the 2 eyes, but all the 1,000 eyes you open up, and you try to recognize what is positive here, what is alive, where is the enthusiasm, what is moving, and this could be a wonderful thing. And this, by the way, ties in with the anatomy of the ego. Yes. So I never taught the workshop in the anatomy of the ego. It is always kind of like in the stages of becoming a workshop. But basically, it is a collection of observing some patterns, some common patterns of the ego and how the ego works and acts, as a way to be able to see them and to release it. You know, so you don't have secret patterns. You may even be very deeply interested in the spiritual truth, but maybe secret patterns that may exist there, maybe superiority or judgments or fear or the need for like action reaction, primitive patterns versus patterns that are more noble or high level patterns or something like this. So we are looking through it, and if it was in workshop, you'll be a workshop where we do some exercises, look at it, share. As other people are sharing, they would also, you start to see, is like, oh, I do this, or secretly is there to realize, yes, the aspect of the ego that always feels something is missing. So to wake up is like, wow, I'm never enough. It's never sufficient. I'm always looking to the past or future. So these elements there, I thought you'd be very wonderful to bring in a workshop from a spiritual perspective, and to start to see what they are, to see ourselves more, so we can release. So we can release more of that. The more you wake up, the more you have the choice to let go or not. And I've also found in a very beautiful way, some people wake up to certain things about themselves and they say, I love that. I was like, okay, go with it. Embrace it. Don't need to think that you have to let go or release. Maybe something needs to complete itself, a process needs to complete itself. If the spiritual truth is not very burning in that moment, or it is, but not sufficiently, then maybe I need to, some people are creative. I need to develop my own I need to make money. I need to feel secure. I need to have that relationship so I can, or a few experiences of relationship. Some people are more primitive. I've been good all my life and had long relationships. I need to experiment more with sexuality, without even so many relationships. It's something that is alive for them that they need to go through it. If there's another burning or wisdom might come there, you may see that going into that pattern might lead you maybe to some suffering or to reiterating some patterns that later on you have to let go. But if nothing else is more passionate or more important or feels more vibrating, there's no other point of reference or aliveness that gives a perspective, then follow the enthusiasm and release that from within you and embrace that as well. Yes. 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 Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Cloud. I can feel how the recognition of love, like when love is happening and having that as a part of the culture, it has the power of bringing us into the present moment. Like, is love happening? Like in this moment, in this relationship, in this that kind of language, it seems like a grounding in, because all these concepts and all these ideas, we can talk about them, you know, and go into all of these perceptions, but then dropping down into what's actually happening right now can be rough, you know, in this way. And so if there can be, yeah, this just the ground of compassion and love in the here and now, not as an idea, because when you ask this question, you really you said something around that even if I feel this beauty and this aspiration, if I'm trying to bring it into the world, like, for who or what is, and I can feel right there how now that I have a little bit more sobering about what feels like freedom, like real freedom, there now I can tell more clearly where I'm not free, and how it feels like even in the strongest inspiration in these, because there's very intense, obviously very intense suffering in the world, and so I can feel compelled to try to do something about it. But here I'm just, yeah, I can feel just the power of including that the whole process is awakening, you know, little by little in little bits, and then also the power of this responsibility of is that openness of devoting whatever this inspiration that's happening right now to the oneness, to the sense of that love in this world, in this life. Yeah, that's so huge. Like I can feel just it's stretching me. So thank you that's part of what I'm receiving.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes. In the name of what? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Well, we've already spent quite some time together. I haven't read all the chats, but I'm assuming that I don't know if there are any questions there right now. But I think Namit was always on top to let me know. Yes,
Yeah, I think we're good. We're good. There are no questions in the chat.
very good. Are there any more questions, or should we close? Or
But we
I
can
have one last question. If possible, could you share the details of the Karma Yoga introduction that you mentioned earlier so that we can possibly join it if possible?
Yes. So either I feel the weekend would be a good time. So either the 30th or 31st. Most likely Sunday the 31st, I feel could be a better time. So people can have that Friday, Saturday connection there. And I'm going to give a little talk about Karma Yoga, just about Karma Yoga in general. And I don't know what the topic will be, But then also I'm going to introduce the Karma Yoga Intensive course, the immersion course that is happening in Mazunte. And this is a program that this year will take 75 days and is very intensive. And I would like to spread the word because it starts on September 22nd. And it is a program where we meet in the morning at 7. We have a 1-hour meditation. Then we have Hatha Yoga and then a discussion every day until 11-ish, like this. And based on that Karma Yoga discussion, we'll go somewhere, usually in the confines of the school, but it can be in Mazunte as well. And we are going to do 4 hours of Karma Yoga, which means 4 hours of being present with a task. The task, most of the times, doesn't have any value for anyone. So that means it's a task that you can fail. It's a task that is there only to reflect the psychology of your being as you are working. And 4 hours is a wonderful time to enter in a meditative state, to see the different nuances. And so whatever was said in the morning was, you're going to try to follow that attitude for 4 hours, and maybe for 2 or 3 days, maintain the same practice. Meanwhile, we're constantly going to speak about it and share about it in circles. In the evening, we also meet for a talk, either one of the Module 1 talks, which will become integrated in our discussions, or it might become a talk related to something within the group about Karma Yoga, or we might have a guest speaker with a particular subject. And like this, it goes for 5 days per week. On the 6th day, we don't do 4 hours of Karma Yoga, and on the 7th day, on Sunday, we rest. And like this for 75 days, but it will include 2 10-day retreats and some maybe other 3 days. And it's a constant churning and experimentation with practices such as moving slow, or maybe sweeping a floor, a hole for 4 hours, even though you was finished in the first half hour, or working with being present in the present moment without feeling there's something else special, or working with the practice of I'm not a doer, or working with consecration. The thing is that certain things, as they don't work and psychological things come up, then we share within our group, and there we purify through them. We take deeper pointers. So you can remain in that container continuously for 75 days. And I think it can be very, very powerful. So I consider it to be one of the most powerful courses in Hridaya, the Karma Yoga Immersion course. And together with the teacher training, which is for 3 months. Usually the Karma Yoga Immersion course is also for 90 days, but 75 days is also very sufficient, very okay. So these 2 courses are something that it's a prolonged immersion in something that we do every day with constant reflection from the perspective of Karma Yoga and spirituality. And if you know anyone who has a deep spiritual longing and has the time, I think the course is fairly inexpensive. Accommodation, food, and a little bit more money to have money for projects that the group will have their own. And even if someone doesn't have sufficient money, they can ask for scholarship. The teachers are not getting paid. I will be mostly with me most of the times. Maybe the Hatha Yoga, there'll be other teachers involved. And maybe, and the discussions are very beautiful. Imagine discussions like this every day for 75 days. Not every day, but every so often, like 4 days per week, we'll have talks and keeping up and developing that thread more and more and more in that way. Yes, so this is This is it. And I think on the 31st, I will give an intro talk, but the marketing team, I asked them to already put some information up and to point to where the course is, maybe some testimonials. So people who are interested can already look if they have that availability. And then on the 31st, they can see, they can ask questions and deeper introduction of the course. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, I hope that maybe one day all of you can, if you have the time, we can spend this almost 3 months or 3 months together in any, it doesn't have to be the Karma Yoga immersion course, but to have long courses, I think I'm very passionate for this. The 30-day retreats, I also feel sometimes is not sufficient. So to spend time together for a prolonged period of time, in the presence of God, in the presence of the heart, can become very transformative and can create a stability there. And also integrating, So the question that Josephine was asking is kind of like the beginning of the cake, or the Adrian was asking, but specifically Josephine was referring to a very personal, so that becomes like the beginning, but then from the beginning of flowering, ongoing flowering, that will arrive to something that is no one knows where. It's just the divine grace leads us to these places where we arrive. Yes.
And thank you so much for your answer, Cloud. I think I mean, in all of this discussion, I think the way that you articulated and clarified, follow our enthusiasm, follow the burning, think of our spiritual path from a positive rather than getting rid of the ego. I think my Western dualistic mind kind of very easily goes there. And that reframing is so much more gentle and so much more natural. And I'll really be kind of sitting with that and exploring it. So thank you so much. And thank you, Adrian, for your question as well.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for making this happening. It was wonderful to share.
Thank you, Tunamit, for
you.
organizing, and Ila.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you all for coming.
sharing your energy and blowing on the ember of the heart. More
Yes.
and more.
And I wanted to ask Jake, I don't know if you had any questions or anything that was alive for you. Maybe you're waiting till the end and we don't have to close right now. We can still have space.
Yeah, I did have a question. Yeah, if we were gonna close, then it wouldn't be a problem. Good, but maybe it can be. I'll try to make it a short question. And very nice to see you, Cloud.
Wonderful to see you as well.
I heard you might be coming to Asheville sometime potentially to do a retreat, but
Yeah,
that's more for later.
invited by Emmanuel. Yes.
Yeah. So if that happens, may it be a wonderful, auspicious circumstance. My question was, so on the topic of this balance or this experience of conditions feeling conducive to follow the burning and follow the spiritual path and go deeper into this presence that you described, and the conditions meaning maybe the state of the ego, the health of the ego. I guess I've heard from teachers in the past how outer conditions, maybe having good food and like a harmonious environment, is helpful, and then I kind of relate that to also inner conditions could be helpful in that they create this circumstance to maybe make it easier, but maybe they're not necessary. Um, and that if the burning is strong enough, if that karma, like the state of one's mind and the burning is alive and strong enough, then the conditions don't have to be a limiting factor. Of course, like it is good to have merits and like these positive karmic results to make it easier and that's helpful, I think, because we all kind of want to be in pleasant circumstances. That's the result of maybe good karma. Um, and so I guess my question, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're speaking too loud.
Yeah, I have to speak more softly, which I can do. Um, so maybe to just refine my understanding of that piece that I just mentioned. And then the other question actually is about, because it feels one of the worst feelings is when the burning is deceptively superficial. And I've gone through experiences in my life where I thought I had the burning, or maybe I would give lip service to the burning, but then my actions and conduct would not be in accordance with following that. And that's that's a very bad feeling. And likewise to that is when there's doubt. I feel like doubt is one of the biggest obstacles um, on the path when it can creep up and kind of usurp the burning. So my question would be, are there, from your experience, methods or perspective shifts in order to increase the burning? Whereas if like, because some people and sometimes in my life, I want to burn, where it's recognized as um yeah, I think I've gotten the question fully out. I think I'll just stop it at that point.
Thank you. Yes. The fact that you are interested in that burning to be more, it is grace itself. It's a form of burning. It's like secretly you are wanting something in a very deep and profound way, but you don't find the fuel to fuel that. And you feel like, I want to fly, but I don't. How do I increase the power to fly? Because it seems like I'm not interested in flying according to my energies and what other interests appear. So how do I increase the power to fly? Because I want to fly. You see, so that means that you want to, and you're just interested in amplifying something there. So that means the burning is there. It's just you are looking at more efficiency, aspiration, and depth, which is already very, very beautiful. But spend time in the company of sages. This is what the wise beings, the mystics and the sages said. This is the general advice. So become curious and interested in that. So you can listen to many podcasts about some beings that have a transmission, or reading books. You see, so and then the transmissions on many levels and for different kind of people, for different kind of personalities. You can have the Rumi, you can have the Hafez. You see, this is a kind of transmission that is there. You can have the Christian mystics, that's a different kind. You can have some Buddhist teachings and teachers like Dalai Lama, which brings a lot of love and compassion. Then you can start to bring the Sufi tradition, where outside of Rumi and Hafez through poetry, like examples of people burning and wanting, like that prayer that you can bring. Yeah, the fathers of the desert. You can listen to Eckhart Tolle, for example. You can read the books of David Hawkins. So, yes, it's like you start to awaken to a fascination with the subject, with a curiosity. So that could be one way. Another way is to wake up deeper to the significance of what these things are. So sometimes it could be as simple as saying, it's like, okay, what is my life about? What am I about? What am I willing to believe? What am I willing to embrace? And then if you ever take the belief, is like there is a reality that is more than just this physical body and this ego. Am I willing to accept that? But deep down, or do I still have a doubt about that? You know? And if you have a doubt about it, and you say, okay, well, who spoke about it? Who spoke against it? Then you start to do your research, you know? And that could be very passionate because, like, I don't know if I should believe or not. So then you do your research with intensity because you're interested. If you already feel that there is something more, and say, okay, then what is this life about? What am I about? What is this more? What is it? So you start to wake up to something. It's like, well, what am I doing in my life? What am I doing today that is helping this other more thing? Do I have to reveal it or not? What is there about it? If there's something more, then what what do I have planned today? I'm gonna go wake up in the morning, go for a run, work out, go to work, stare at numbers in my computer, then, or whatever you do, like massage people's backs and whatnot. Then I'm going to come home and like watch something, maybe spiritual, maybe I'm gonna hang out with my friends, have a beer, like enjoy life, wait for the weekend, go for a hike. It's like, where in this am I honoring or looking for that depth? What is my life going to be? How long am I going to go like this for? When am I going to stop and look at anything? And then in that moment, that burning starts to come. What are the sages saying about this other dimension? There, the fire starts to, like, what? Who is pointing to what? Are all these stories true? The Buddhists are speaking about different levels of consciousness in Buddha realms. Is that true? Is there simple Buddhism? What are the Christians speaking about? What is the truth? Oh my God. So then that aspiration could be about this. You see, it could be an aspiration that is very much about life itself. And that could be very alive. He could be very passionate about it. And it's not an aspiration, I want to die from the identification of my ego, but it could be an aspiration towards, can there be an existence where there's no identification with an image of me or with an idea of me? What that might feel like? Can I experience it at any moment? How do I produce the conditions? What is a samadhi? So then, at no point you are saying to yourself, let me get rid of my ego, but you are wanting to experience states that are different than the common state. Most of the times people feel like they are adorning the current state. They are adding to current state something that is more superlative, something which is more, how would you call it, enhanced like this. I'm enhancing my common experience by taking plant medicine, but it's not an enhancement. You are actually resting into a more essential, already here level of consciousness or perspective, which is obscured by the common consciousness somehow. So you are.
There was a phrase you used earlier that reminded me, and I really like the phrase, so I wonder if you can remember the one I'm talking about, but it was akin to like moving to a different operating system or like moving the train to a different rail set of tracks. What was
Yeah,
that phrase?
I don't know, but it's recorded, so we can pick it up.
Okay,
But you
cool.
are definitely, you are changing the context, or you are looking from a different perspective. You
Mm.
see, the perspective changes, the context changes, the interest change. Yes, so this starts to become, yes, you're looking from a different interest, from a different curiosity and fascination. Yes. So something like this. Another thing that deepens this is the practice itself. So you can read about prayer, but an incredible transformation can appear. For example, the prayer of the heart. Well, I don't know if it resonates with you. It could be a different prayer, like I am Shiva, but they should be something true or alive. But Jesus Christ, have mercy upon me. Maybe something like that. And then you read about it, but then you do half an hour, 1 hour, or 1 day of repeating this every day. And then something might break. Your heart might start vibrating. You might start crying. Like no amount of books and reading and comparison with Sufis and saints and mystics of Buddhism will ever give you the direct experience of being touched by a prayer. That ultimately that direct experience is the true motivator and the true kind of mover of the spiritual. So yes.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Should we close at a moment of silence?
Yes, and thank you so much, Claude, for
Thank you
coming
so
and
much for your
sharing
time
your
and
time.
sharing your energy and everything. My gosh.
It's a joy. It's a joy for me, and I'm grateful for your interest. So let's take a moment of connecting to our hearts and bringing a feeling of joy and transparency. This background of peace. And the recognition of the beauty of this present moment. Look at us being here. How beautiful this present moment is. How sacred this blessed present moment is. And keeping this sense of connection with the depth of our being, we conclude. Thank you. Wonderful to see you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, everyone.
Appreciate
you,
your presence.
Thank you, Namit. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Claude.
Thank you, John Jake.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the ones who are listening to the recordings who weren't here.
Yes,
Yes.
I will upload it on an online forum so that everyone can access it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Have a wonderful
Bye.
weekend.
Beautiful evening. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.